Hello, you are listening to the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio. I'm your host, Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer, Amazon #1 best-selling author. You can find out more about me and my work at catherinecarrigan.com and unlimitedenergynow.com. While you're there, definitely sign up for my newsletter so you can learn even more about how you can heal yourself naturally. Now, our guest today is Phoenix Sohl. Phoenix Sohl is the author of a new book called Be Your Own Peace, and she is also referred to as the goddess of R&B. So she has a beautiful spirit, as you are soon to discover. And you can find out more about Phoenix Sohl and her wonderful work at her website. And I need to spell that for you. It's phoenixsohl.com, PhoenixSohl.com. Welcome, Phoenix Sohl.
Greetings. How are you, Catherine? Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Of course. Now, we're going to be talking with you today, Phoenix Sohl, about your new book, Be Your Own Peace. But
Yes.
one of the ways that many of us achieve inner peace is by listening to beautiful music.
Yes.
Will you share for our audience about your music?
Absolutely. Well, I've been in entertainment since I was 9 years old. And so I've had waves within my music, right? Definitely jazz trained, and I'm an R&B artist. However, I've also studied sound healing and started to infuse that into the music. And as I've evolved as a person, so has my messaging, so has my mission, right? And so it's centered on mind, body, and soul, well being, uplifting, and just messages that inspire as well as heal. Like I said, it's gone through waves, but now we're really in a beautiful space where we're integrating the music on a healing, level. But in addition to that, it's still rooted in who I am as an artist.
So, Phoenix Sohl, where can people listen to your music?
On all of the major platforms, that being Spotify, Apple Music, and YouTube is also another great one.
Awesome. Now, we're talking with you today about your new book, Be Your Own Peace. What inspired you to write Be Your Own Peace?
Well, again, being in the entertainment industry, it is a very hectic, very disconnecting, it can be in, environment. And so I've had to find my way in that. And how I've done that is through just various different, healing modalities, whether studying that, on the practitioner level for healing myself and those around me, really curating that environment around me. And so I've had to live these practices, throughout these years. And just being who I am naturally, just would always share this information with people. But I don't think that peace is created by sitting in your house and just meditating. That's one aspect, right? However, we all know that life is kind of trial by fire. And so when you get out here in the world, you have to have these tools to use. And so while I am very, right brain and lofty, I'm also very left brain in that I want to make it practical and make it plain. And that's what Be Your Own Peace is. It's like, how can we make this practical? How can we create peace in these chaotic environments that we live in right now in the modern times?
Beautiful. Now, would you share with us a little bit about your personal journey
Sure.
healing from past traumas and anxiety?
Absolutely. Like I said, being a practitioner and, Reiki master and, studying quantum healing has been something that's been really great for me. However, what I found is that I grew really powerful in one area, but at nights, I was having like these night terrors. And this was for like a couple of years. And so during the day, if I feel something, I'm like, hey, stop. we have this awareness, right? We're able to rewire it, but at night I just couldn't shake it. And so, that led me on a journey because I thought maybe it was my environment first. And then I moved and I was in this really calm and serene environment. Yet I was still having these anxious feelings. And I'm like, okay, it's not my environment. It's like process of elimination almost. And so that made me really look in the mirror and say, okay, there's more here. Right. And I had to dive into, just getting some more assistance from various different practitioners to create this peace within. And, ultimately what I've come to is that there were literally tapes running in the background that I wasn't even aware of.
You mean in
And
your
they were,
mind?
yeah,
Mental thought loops. Yes.
absolutely. And they were keeping me stuck in these places. And the only way I believe the body is just so powerful. The only way for that information to come forward was in a way that was like super uncomfortable for me. Right. I could dodge during the day. I could, rework it, but at nights I just couldn't. And it forced me to look in the mirror and really make some powerful changes and really get the help that I needed to stop the tapes from running.
So what were the changes that you made that allowed you personally to go from anxiety to a state of peace?
Really, it was about me diving deep into some of the stories that I had created, in my childhood, some of the stories and the limiting beliefs that had been set into my body via whether that be in utero. Some things came forward, in utero. Some things were passed on via my parents. So it was really a deep, deep, deep dive.
So great observation. Now, in my work as a medical intuitive healer, Phoenix Sohl, I talk about the 5 levels of healing.
Mhm.
And one of the things that we know is that your soul controls your mind.
Mm,
Your mind controls your emotions. So what you talked about was changing the stories you were telling yourself. And when we examine or re-examine our thoughts and beliefs, then how we feel can change,
yes,
right? But it's that mental operating system that for so many of us is causing the anxiety.
for sure.
Now, your book, Be Your Own Peace, functions as a workbook. How does Be Your Own Peace differ from other self-help books on the market?
How I feel that it differs is, I needed to make that a workbook because it's something different to just ingest information. We live in an information age right now, right? We're always intaking information. But what are we putting out, right? And so this is a walkthrough. It's a daily 21-day walkthrough whereby there's a prompt and it hones in and focuses on one subject. It asks you to think that through, process it your own way in what is relative to your story. And then from there, it kind of lightens up a bit and asks you to think about the things that you're grateful for. And what is your theme of the day? And what is your affirmation? So, it may start on the heavier end, but at the end, we want the empowerment to be present where you can walk through your day and say, hey, I started here and I'm observing this, but now let me focus on what I'm creating.
Wonderful. Now, we just talked about how our mind controls our feelings. So
Yes,
I'll put it another way. What you think and what your beliefs are control how you feel. So
right,
if I'm feeling depressed or if I'm feeling anxious, one of the ways to shift that is to look at what are the thoughts that I'm holding or what are the beliefs that I'm holding that are causing those uncomfortable feelings.
for sure.
So, as you did your own inner work to unwind years of night terrors, what were the thoughts that you needed to change in order
Mm,
to achieve inner peace?
that's so good. I needed to, I want to preface. I remember listening to Tony Robbins once, and he spoke about your emotional home. And he spoke about being in a room during 9/11. And at that time, everybody had a different emotional response to that occurrence. And he thought that was so bewildering. And what he found is that everybody has their own emotional home that they'll go to when things transpire. So if that's fear, they'll go into the fear, house. If that's worry, they'll go into the worry house. If that is, insecurity, they'll go into the insecurity house. So everybody has this emotional home that's kind of automatic to their responses. And I thought that was so powerful. And so when I asked myself, what is my emotional home? It was always uncertainty. It wasn't grounded in knowing, it wasn't grounded in feeling secure, it wasn't grounded in grounding. Uncertainty is just kind of that like shifty, I don't know what's going to happen, which allows fear to come in and allows worry to come in. And so, what I really had to do was tap into my body and somatically, like, rewire myself to ground in certainty and ground in trust and ground in knowing that I'm good, I'm safe, I'm a divine being. So be really beginning to speak these affirmations to myself that allowed me to feel grounded in my body and feel secure and create that reality for myself. So it's kind of a process, right? But it's so good to know. And so now if something comes up, it's like, oh, I can see you over there, uncertainty, but that's not me. That's not the story that we're telling. That's not the road that we're headed down. We're going to ground right here and we're going to trust in this process.
Beautiful story. Now, Phoenix Soul, if I'm working with a client who has anxiety,
Yes.
and I'm examining what are the beliefs that he or she is holding that are causing her to feel anxious, here's a couple of thoughts that I'm going to look for.
Okay.
So Albert Einstein, who's widely believed to be a wise individual, he said the most important question is whether or not you consider the universe to be a friendly place.
Yes.
So I'm going to actually dive into, as a medical intuitive healer, I'm going to dive into that person's belief system.
Yes.
And, the way I like to think of our beliefs, it's kind of like your mental operating system, just like you have a computer and it's either, Android or, iOS, right?
Right.
And so, do you believe the universe is a friendly place to you? And that may differ. If I live in the Ukraine or maybe even parts of Russia or other parts of the world, maybe I don't feel safe, right? Or in certain cultures, like if I'm an immigrant trying to get into the United States, I definitely probably don't feel safe. So I'm going to look at what are your core beliefs about, is the universe a friendly place to me? Another set of beliefs that I'm going to look at is the enough category. People don't feel like they're good enough. And so I'm going to look at your beliefs on I am good enough, I have enough, I do enough. Because if you don't feel like you're good enough, then you're constantly, and many of us in natural healing can be on a treadmill of self-improvement. And so you publish your book, you're the beautiful goddess of R&B, but if you don't feel good enough, then then it doesn't matter what you achieve, right?
For sure.
And then another thing that I'm going to look at is because our soul controls our mind, I'm going to look at a person's spiritual connection. Because if we have a strong spiritual connection, then we are able to trust the divine flow, to trust the divine unfolding of our lives, right?
For sure.
right? So, but if you look at those beliefs, it's really all about connection to um to support, right? Whether it's divine support or family support or just knowing that the universe is a friendly place.
Yes. So good. That's so good.
Yes. Now, your book offers practical steps or techniques to start healing from anxiety. Will you start with pick one of the techniques that you feel is most helpful when someone is dealing with anxiety
Mm.
and explain that for our listeners?
One of the techniques I really feel that is great for anxiety is really just honing in and becoming present.
Mm.
Anxiety is just that those loops beginning to play. So, I like for everyone has a different connection to what helps them feel present. That could be a walk, that could be just sitting here and breathing. That could be just taking a moment and listening to music. So I ask for people to tap into their own inner guidance and ask themselves what makes me feel good and present in this moment. For me, it's walking. I'll
Mm.
say, you know what? I can always take a 5-minute break, right? Let me go take a 5-minute walk up the street. And that really recalibrates and really resets me. So, again, we live in a modern world. Some people may not be able to do that, but some people can sit at their desk and just take 30 seconds and breathe. So it's just really about getting present and honing into like what's good for me and doing more of that.
Awesome. So, how do you think that getting present helps us to release anxiety?
Well, if we're in the present moment, we're living here right now. And that's the only right now is all that we have. We don't know that when we, step away from this computer screen in 5 minutes, that we'll be here. The past is already done. So it's about grounding in this moment and really enjoying this moment. I remember coming across some information that spoke of people that really feel alive, live through their senses, and so that's eating and enjoying the food right now in the moment because it tastes delicious. That's hearing the sounds that are around us and really embracing that. That's seeing. So that's right now. That's not rooted in what we have to do later or what's due in a few minutes. It's really like, how can I be here now and enjoy this moment? And the more that becomes a practice, that becomes a lifestyle, that becomes the path to like, I feel good right now and that's all I got and that's all that matters.
That is so beautiful. Right before our interview, I was sitting on the porch. This is one of my favorite things to do, and listening to the birds.
Yes, absolutely. That's such a way to live where you're in commune, you're in connection with nature and the environment and sounds and just the beautiful things that we have available to us that can be so easily missed if we don't just stop and embrace it.
And in my work as a medical intuitive healer, when someone is dealing with anxiety, one of the things that I look at is where is your energy? So you
Mm,
talked about, we've got to be present in the
yeah.
moment to get out of anxiety. And when our energy is stuck in the past, which it is for so many people, then they're still processing, what's happened. And that is a huge drag on your energy. It's a major source of anxiety, right? And
Yeah.
what I find is people who are stuck in the past tend to be stuck in depression. On the other hand,
Yeah.
people who have anxiety, their energy is projected out into the future. What about, as they say, it's false evidence appearing real. So
Yeah.
their energy is so projected out into the future about what might happen. And that's taking away from all the energy that's available to us right now.
For certain. And we live in such an environment that requires deadlines and requires you to think so far ahead, and whether you're in business or whether you're working. And so that's why, these simple, kind of primitive I'm using that word a lot lately, but just kind of getting back to like the primitive way of being is so important because we have so much technology that's driving us forward. And it's amazing, right? We're able to talk and connect from different parts of the world, but like the primitive aspect of us as humans is like right here, right now, trees, grass, plants, smells, and connecting to that is what connects us to our humanity and our aliveness.
And there's a new book out talking about anxiety among teenagers and young people. And they find that there's a very high correlation between the amount of time a young person spends on social media and their anxiety level. And again, it's that social media is taking us out of the present, out of really reality. It's literally disconnecting us. So with that, let's take a break and listen to a message from one of our commercial sponsors. My name is Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer. We are listening to Phoenix Sohl discuss her new book, Be Your Own Peace. We'll be right back here at UK Health Radio. Phoenix Sohl, in your book, you discuss the importance of connecting with others in healthy relationships. So I think that in social media, that's called ITW in the real ITRW in the real world, right? And our relationships can be a great source of joy or a great source of emotional turmoil. What are some signs of a healthy versus an unhealthy relationship?
Ultimately, I think that the greatest sign of healthy and unhealthy is the way that you feel when you're in and when you walk away from that connection, right? We're all very feeling people. And so, again, getting back to those primitive senses, when we walk away, there we're feeling like empowered or inspired or reflective about the connection that we just had. It was a positive exchange, or there's some feelings there that may not be so positive. You may feel drained, or you may just feel uncertain or not really sure like why you feel the way that you feel, but you feel something. And I think that it's important for us to really pay attention to our energy and the type of energy exchanges that we're having with individuals, because how I see relationship at this point is that we're all mirrors, right? And so when I'm connecting with you, Catherine, like you are projecting something within me. There's some sort of resonance that we have with each other that either is gonna like harness our energy, where two is better than one, or it's gonna make us walk away and feel a little icky. So where are we in that journey? And if we can begin to look and feel our way through relationships like that, I feel that we'll be more connected to self, and then also less projecting out and asking self, okay, how does this relationship reflect me? How was this relationship building me or helping me? And how could this relationship possibly be hurting me? So just becoming more aware that relationships are mirrors, and asking ourselves to do that work in real time, right, in the real world, to develop healthier, more supportive connections.
That's so beautiful. And in one of my books, Unlimited Intuition Now, I talk about the different psychic gifts. And one of the gifts it's actually the easiest gift for most people to develop is the gift of clairsentience, which is psychic feeling. And there's a wonderful saying, trust the vibes, energy doesn't lie.
You can't lie.
And so you said it. It's like, we can pay attention. How do I feel in that relationship when I'm with those other people? And then how do I feel afterwards? Right?
Yeah, yes, for sure. And I think that it's a very interesting world that we live in, especially in the West, because we value the mind so much, right? We value our thoughts, but it's so important as well to value the way that you feel and to trust the way that you feel. Because, like you said, the vibes don't lie, and typically they don't negotiate. But the mind can negotiate. You can say, "Oh, well, I felt that, but I don't know, and then I saw this," and you can create a story there and a narrative there that may keep you in a loop or a holding pattern or just somewhere that you shouldn't be. But if you begin to trust your intuition and trust your discernment, trust your body, then you start to see, like, okay, this is my friend, and this is a very good uh guidance system that I can always use and have present and available to me.
Okay, great information. So what I find as a medical intuitive healer, sometimes people have beliefs about what's hard to heal. Like they think, oh, cancer is hard to heal, or, so on. And what I find is that so many people are so encrusted and cemented in their belief systems that they have a hard time getting into their feelings. So
Yeah,
even if they feel something that could be their guidance, then they rationalize it. It's like, oh yeah, but right?
sure, absolutely,
So
absolutely.
so Phoenix Soul, you are the guide goddess of R&B. How do you, in your own practice, trust your own inner how do you trust your own feelings? What is your process?
It's so innate at this point. But I always say that intuition is a muscle. And so, like any other muscle, it has to be used. It has to be repped, right? We go to the gym and we lift and we do these things to get stronger. And so the more that we lean into, oh, I feel these feelings, and we trust that and we allow those feelings to guide us on the path, the stronger that gets, to the point where I I completely trust myself, and I know that if I'm feeling something, there's a reason for it, and I'm gonna listen to it and allow myself to be led down a path, down a certain path because of it. So I everything is just living in practice, and practice makes perfect. But it's just been a process of, like, honoring my feelings, trusting my feelings, and then just going down that path, of saying, I know myself, I'm aware, I'm keen, and then it becomes it's something that you don't even think about. It's a guidance system that you completely trust.
Okay, so here we are, we're talking for our audience about how to be your own peace.
Yeah.
And we're also talking about how to use the guidance system. And in my book, I talk about different kinds of intuition. So we're talking specifically about clairsentience, which is feeling.
Yes.
So if I was going to teach somebody about how to trust their feelings, one of the simple ways to do it is if you're thinking about doing something or going someplace, what you can do is you can imagine yourself going to that place and then notice what feelings come up for you. Okay.
Mm,
So I'm going to give a real simple example from my own life. So
okay.
years ago, my mother and I used to go to Charleston every June, and we used to go to a music festival.
Okay.
And I remember one time we went, and it was very hot. It was over 100 degrees during the day. But we were going to go to the theater that night, and we had to decide what to wear at the theater. So what I did was I projected myself into the theater, And what I felt was cold. So even though it had been 100 degrees out, I put on long jeans, a jacket, and brought a shawl. And when I got to the theater, it was freezing.
I
And
love
so
it.
that's a very simple way. You just project your energy into the situation.
Yes.
And that can guide you about how to be. Now that was a simple thing on how to dress, okay? But we're
Yes.
talking about peace.
Yes.
Another example from my own life, I was in London in 2005, and it's a long story. I'll tell some of the details. I
Okay.
remember being on a train going into the city of London, and all of a sudden I felt, and this was actually a feeling, I felt this huge incoming wave of negativity. And the day I felt that was on a Monday. And anyway, I was scheduled to go into London. Where I was staying was outside of London. And I was scheduled to go into London on a Thursday. And a friend of mine had scheduled 10 of his clients to come and have appointments with me.
Wow.
Well, the day before, every time I felt this situation, and I'm literally talking about feelings because I couldn't figure it out. So when I felt the incoming negativity, I'm a Reiki master teacher. I drew the Reiki master symbols. I tried to stop the negativity and I couldn't. So the day before, every time I kept feeling this, I felt that if I went into the city, I'd have a hard time coming back. So the day before, I called my friend and I canceled all those appointments. So literally an entire day of work. And everyone, I'm sure, was very upset with me until the actual Thursday. I go out for a walk. It's a beautiful day. I come back and the TV's on, and terrorists had blown up the subway, and 55 people died and hundreds of people were injured. So we're talking about trusting the vibes and about really finding your peace.
Yes.
So again, clairsentience is the easiest gift for most of us to develop.
Yeah.
So when we really feel the energy of something, you feel the energy of the job. How am I going to feel in that job? Right?
Absolutely. And I'm so glad you made it practical, for sure. I call it quantum jumping, the first example that you gave, like, it's such a powerful tool of just tapping into the energetics because we are all, right? And that is an incredibly powerful tool for for manifesting, for, like you said, going forward, for going regression. So that's really powerful. And then speaking to your story, completely trusting the vibes even when it's contrary to what you're wanting to do. I think that's the hardest thing for us as people. I'm a military child, right? So it's like, I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do, and I'm going to show up, and I'm going to be here. And so that was like the biggest conflict that I had within myself, is like, something doesn't feel right, but I said I was going to do it. And I had to learn that lesson the hard way of like, you know what? I don't know why, but I know that I'm being led, you know, for a reason to cancel or to, and every single time it warrants itself to be like, you made the best decision. So I just think that that's such a great example, Catherine. Like, thank you for sharing of, you got to trust it. It may sound great. We've got 10 clients booked. It's internet, like your mind is like wrapped around it, but your soul, your spirit, your intuitive like knowing, it's like, we got to shift it up, and always listening to that.
Yes. And when I picked up your beautiful book, Be Your Own Peace, it's very peaceful. And again, here we are talking with our audience about how to be your own peace. So part of, I think, trusting to be able to read the energy around us and read where we're going and reading different opportunities is to have a felt sense of what peace feels like versus
Yes.
anxiety.
Yes.
Okay, so you're the goddess of R&B. Your music is very peaceful. And we're talking about using the feeling, the sense of clairsentience of feeling. What does peace feel like to you? What does it feel like?
It feels it feels grounded. It feels open. It feels expansive. When I breathe in, it feels calm, you know? And again, thank you for that because I love and I've experienced, your healing, and I love it because it's somatic. It's getting into the body. It's allowing the body to communicate. And so just connecting to the feelings of peace that may be different for everybody. They may feel water. They may feel, like wavy. That may, whatever it feels for you, incredible. But for me, it's really tapping into these energies and breathing in and holding them and then releasing them down through my feet and allowing myself to just feel grounded and secure and hear the birds.
Okay, thank you for that, Phoenix Soul. Now, anxiety is a common issue for so many people. What
Yes.
unique approach does your book offer to manage and heal from anxiety?
What unique approach. I love simplicity. So I can't say that this is so unique per se, but what it is it's repetition. And what it is it's a reminder. And what it is it's a friend that you can depend on, right? And sometimes it doesn't need to be so innovative. It just needs to be simple, honest, and easy. And I think that, practicality in this modern world is what is going to differentiate those that are here for quite some time, that are just connecting us back to the primitive. So I like to keep things simple. I like ease because I think that's what peace is. It's not overly thought. And just reminding you, come on back, come back to the right now, right? Get it out and then feel into your body and just be here right now. And I think that's the most beautiful way and place to be in this society that we live in.
So, what I noticed reading your book, Be Your Own Peace, is that empowers people to look at what are their thoughts that are causing them to feel anxious and sort
Yeah.
of re-examining that,
For
right?
sure, for sure. And realizing that you're not your thoughts. I oftentimes lay in bed and my thoughts are going, and then I just say, hey, what about no? I don't want to think that right now. And then I will say a mantra and I'll just repeat that over and over and over again until it becomes the primary thought. And I realized, hey, that was just a moment in time. That was just a loop. And I don't have to choose that. I have power of choice in every single moment. And I think that that is so empowering to become aware. Awareness is the greatest gift. Like, oh, there we go again. No, I'm not going to do that. And then choose another path. And the more that you do that, the more that that is your repetition, it becomes your lifestyle, it becomes your personality, and it opens your path up to something new. So, again, very simple, very practical, but it's the way. It's totally the way.
Very, very powerful. I know when I studied medical intuition, my teacher at the time said that everyone needs to have a foolproof positive thought. So
Mm,
if you just think about this one thing, if you just bring it to mind, then whatever unpleasant emotions you may be going through, it always brings you back to the positive. And so for me, my foolproof thought is hugging my puppy.
no, I love that.
If I just think about, and that also recreates a feeling, right? Because she's soft, she's fluffy, she's huggable. So if I think about hugging my puppy, no matter what is going on with me, then I can get back to a peaceful place.
For sure. For sure.
And we're talking a lot about something that I think a lot of people with that anxiety have, which is repetitive thoughts. And there is a Bach flower essence called white chestnut. And white chestnut is for people who have looped thoughts and where they just their mind keeps going around like a mental torture. Don't forget the milk, don't forget the milk. And that's a very common pattern of anxiety. So Bach flower essences are available everywhere, and the white chestnut one will help you to get out of those constant mental loops.
I love that. Thank you for that. I love the Bach flower essences, but thank you for the recommendation. That's awesome.
So Phoenix Sohl, how can someone start creating more peace in their life, especially if they're currently feeling overwhelmed or stuck?
You know what my favorite thing to do is that's so easy is just clean up. It's the perfect start. And there's a chapter in the book on that, say for instance, you walk into your house and it's just so much clutter everywhere, it's going to produce a feeling. It's going to produce whatever that is for you, the anxiety or feeling claustrophobic. And so you may think, oh my gosh, like I have so much stuff I need to move. But maybe you don't need to move. Maybe you just need to clear some things out, get rid of some things, add some new things, and just kind of start fresh and see what the energy feels like. So, again, getting back to practicality, to move some things out of your environment. I once found that, there were some things that were transpiring, in my world relating to business, and I was like, okay, it's time for me to clean up. It's time for me to go through old records, and you can't even imagine like me going through these old records and things that I no longer needed and shredding papers. It was such an energy shift that happens that actually propelled me forward in so many different ways. And then when I walked into my office, I felt this sense of aliveness and like drive and power to move forward because I no longer had an attachment to these physical things. So that's always a great start. Is just get that environment cleared out. If you want something new, get rid of some things. See how you feel there. And then that's going to spawn other things in your life because we are environmental and everything is environment.
I love that story. And here at the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio, we've interviewed a number of feng shui experts. And when people talk about natural healing, we forget that environment is your most powerful factor. So I talk about in my healing room, which is full of orchids, and I can take my most beautiful orchid and put it in the dark and not water it, and it will die. And you were like that. So if you're living in clutter, you're living in darkness, then that's how you're going to feel.
Exactly. We need a plant, and that's why I love plants because they reflect that to us. It needs the right amount of water, the right amount of sunlight. How is the soil aerated? All of these things matter, and that leads to the growth or the death. And so it's like, okay, I'm a plant, I'm a flower. How am I being watered? How am I being nurtured? Is this soil rich? Is it aerated? Is it what I need? Like, am I tropical? You know what I mean? Like, how much sunlight do I need in a day? All of this matters. All of it matters.
So, how do self-compassion and self-care play into the healing journey that you discuss in your beautiful book, Be Your Own Peace?
Just kind of going back to the flower and to the plants, those that are plant mamas and daddies, there's a certain kindness that is required for nurturing those plants, you know? Same thing with babies. Like there's a softness that's necessary.
Mm,
And in the world that we live in, it's so important to create those soft spaces for ourselves.
mm.
So many children that are now adults didn't have those soft, comfy, nurturing spaces. And so it's hard to provide those for self, not having an understanding or feeling, right, of how to create that. Me being a vocalist, I think the most important lesson that I learned is that, sound lives in your body.
Mm.
And when you understand where the sound is located, you can always access it again. But if you don't know where it's coming from, you can't replicate it. And so, like, that degree of like softness is so required in what we are able to produce and create in this world. So we have to give it to ourselves. At some point, we have to become our own parents and say, you know what, I may not have gotten that. I may not understand what that looks and feels like, but I know that I need it. And I know that I need some self care, and I know that I need some time with me, and I know that I need to be compassionate with me. Again, it looks different for everybody, but just being aware that, like, that you need it and that you're worthy of it and that it's what is going to give you the energy and the restoration to power forward is is exponential. It's life changing.
Very powerful message. You've been listening to the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio. I'm your host, Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer, Amazon #1 best-selling author. You can find out more about me at catherinecarrigan.com and unlimitedenergynow.com. Our guest today has been Phoenix Sohl, goddess of R&B, and we can totally understand why, and author of the beautiful new book, Be Your Own Peace, that is a workbook that you can use to move from anxiety to peace. You can find out more about Phoenix Sohl and her wonderful work at her website, phoenixsohl.com. And I'm going to spell that for you, PHOENIXSOHL.com. And remember, when you create the softness that your soul needs, you can move from anxiety to peace naturally. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.